يا ليلة القدر يا فضل بارنا خير من الدهر بالعفو تاتينا. يا ليلة القدر يا فضل بارنا.
Assalamu alaikum dear viewers, and welcome to the special episodes of the month of Ramadan. I'm your host Naya Parmar. Yesterday we discussed the first daily dua of the month of Ramadan, and today we'll be discussing the second supplication. Now, as I said, this month is the month of blessings, mercy and forgiveness, and we should take full advantage of it by instilling the values found in these duas, because the duas, they're not just ways to ask for things from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They are supposed to be our goals and ideals. They're reminders for what we want. So before we expect anything from Allah, we should make an attempt to show Him that we really want those values by trying to instill them in us. Then of course He'll help us. Today's dua, the second daily dua, it reads, "O Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, on this day, please take me near your pleasure and keep me away from your wrath and punishments, and make me succeed, give me tawfiq in reciting your verses. By your mercy, O the most merciful of all those who show mercy." So we'll start from the first line. "O Allah, on this day, please take me near your pleasure." This means we're asking Allah, make me closer to your pleasure. In the Holy Quran, Allah mentions many purposes for why He created us. Some of these purposes are very specific, some of them are very literal, but others are broad, meaning we have to ponder on these purposes. Now, in one of the verses, He has mentioned, "We have not created man and jinn except to worship me." And another verse, He mentions paradise and the hereafter. So from this, we can deduce that we're here in this world to worship Him so that we may go to paradise in the hereafter, after we die. But why are we aiming for paradise? What is there in paradise that we want? The terminologies Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uses in the Quran for paradise are like flowers, fruits, nature, rivers, palaces, etc. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also mentions that these are the lowest descriptions of paradise. I mean, there's more to paradise than just nature and palaces. Now, how do we know this? Because Allah has mentioned in the Holy Quran, and surely the pleasure of Allah is greater. Now, Allah only wants the best for us, yes? So what is the pleasure of Allah? And what do we get from attaining His pleasure? Obviously, Allah will only want good for us, and so there must be a really good reward for attaining God's pleasure, although no one knows for sure what it is. The thing is, we all want Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be pleased with us, yes? But we're never pleased with Allah. I mean, we're always complaining about this world, and admit it. You have complained at least once or twice today, haven't you? To receive the pleasure of God, you need to perform those actions that please Him. There's a cause and effect for everything, and to please Him, I mean, He must have the actions He mentions in the Holy Quran. Those actions, if we perform them, He'd obviously be pleased with us. So what are these actions? The next two lines of the dua clearly state the answer for what actions please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we'll discuss them after the break. special episodes. Till now we have discussed the first line of today's daily dua, which is regarding Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's pleasure. We said that to get His pleasure, number one, we need to be pleased with Him ourselves, we need to be satisfied, and number two, we need to perform those actions that please Him, meaning those actions that He has already mentioned in the Holy Quran. And what are those actions? We said that we'll discuss them after the break, which is right now. Now, the second line of the dua is, and keep me away from your wrath and punishments. Keep me away from things that make you angry. Now, when we want to please someone, we obviously give them a gift. But at the same time, if we displease them by hurting them, then the gift is meaningless. It has no use. Many scholars are asked regarding how can you please God? And most of them have replied that you please God by giving up forbidden acts. See, if you want to please someone, you do something nice for them. But if you displease Him at the same time, the gift is meaningless. So we have to try and give up those haram acts that we commit. Now, say you commit, you do 10 good deeds, 10 wajib acts, and 1 bad deed. Do you think that's okay? Well, no, it's not, because we do not see how many sins they are. We see their size. This is no matter how big or small something is, we actually look at in whose defiance we're sinning, whom we're sinning against. As one of the Masumin have said, do not look at the smallness of your sin. Look at whom you have erred against. This means that you cannot use your intellect to see how big or small something is. You have to see who you have hurted. Now, as an example, say I'm speaking with my friends after a long day at school, and one of my friends is going on and on and on about some boring class. I'm so fed up, my head is hurting, so I playfully tell her, please be quiet now, I'm fed up. Now, these words are rude, yeah? But they'll be taken casually because we're all friends, yeah? A familiar environment, it'll be taken casually. But if we come home from school and our mothers start talking to us about something, and if I say those same words to my mother, heart-stopping, isn't it? It's unthinkable, it's unbelievable. But why? Why, if I say those rude words to my friends, it doesn't matter, but my mother, it matters? Because it's based on whom I am hurting. If I hurt my mother, who has a higher status, it'll be a bigger sin, it'll be more rude than if I hurt my friends, who obviously won't be hurt because it's a familiar environment. So by rebelling against His law, by rebelling against Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's law, you are hurting Him, you are offending Him. Now, back to the 10 good deeds and 1 bad deed. Another reason why this is not acceptable is the intention. When you do a good deed, it is supposed to be to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But when you do a bad deed, you do it to please yourself. Now, if you mix a good deed and a bad deed, then the intentions change. Because when you do a bad deed, you want to please yourself. But then, when you say, okay, fine, let me do these 10 good deeds, you don't do it to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You do it to console yourself that, okay, fine, I have done that bad deed, but now it is fully covered up by those 10 good deeds that I did. You do it to console yourself. You do not do it to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So, you cannot mix good and bad. There's only place for one. As one of the Masums has said, the heart is the place of abode for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then, in the place of abode for Allah, there resides none other than Allah. What he's trying to say is that when you have place in your heart for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, there can be nothing else. There can be no dirt in it. So Ramadan is the month of purifying your heart. It's the month of taking away all the filth so that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can reside in your heart. There's only place for one. Either fulfilling your desires or staying away from forbidden acts. The third line states, and please give me tawfiq, give me the strength to recite your verses. Now, there are a lot of rewards for reciting the Holy Quran. But wait, hold up. Who said anything about the Holy Quran? Who said anything about these verses? The Arabic term, in the Arabic version of the dua, this line uses the word ayatik. Now, ayat means sign, and there are two kinds of signs. There's written signs, and there are signs that there are signs that are in the universe, like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's creations. This can be the sun, the moon, us humans, His creations. And the written sign is the Holy Quran. So how do we know what sign it is? By looking at another word in the same line. Now, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Ahlul Bayt have used the word liqara'ati, which means to read. Now, you cannot read creations, can you? You cannot read the sun, you can't read the stars, you cannot read humans, but you can read something that is written. So, what is the written sign? The written sign is the Holy Quran. So, it is obvious that we mean to recite the Holy Quran. Now, we go on to how we recite it. Most of us recite the Holy Quran robotically. We open the Holy Quran and we just keep reciting for 10 minutes without any understanding, and then we close the book and keep it back. Is this right? No, it's not. Because when you say you want to read, reading is also another word for studying, so it has a bit of studying in it. Now, when you read a book, you want to get some bits of information out of it. You get bits of information, you get a message, you get a story out of it. But okay, it would be really unusual if this situation occurred. There's this boy, he's reading a book, and you walk up to him and you ask him what he's reading, and he replies, "Oh, I don't know what I'm reading. I know how to read, but I don't understand a thing." That would be really unusual, wouldn't it be? Wouldn't it? Because this boy is only reading because everyone else reads. And although he knows how to read, he does not understand a thing. Now, in the same way, if we put the Quran in his hands, no one would ask him what he was reading. Is this fair? We want to understand books, normal books. We want to understand every single book except the Holy Quran. We do not consider reading without understanding the Holy Quran to be unusual, so we need to work on that. Now, there are two kinds of people. There are people who, these are two situations. There are some people who do not get any time to recite the Holy Quran. There are other people who get the time to recite, but they just take the Quran for 10 minutes and, as I mentioned before, robotically recite. No. The kind of reading we want, the kind of reading Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants you to read the Holy Quran by, is reading with comprehension and understanding. How many of us actually understand what the Holy Quran says? We need to work on this. There are around 1.5 billion people in this universe. There are about 1.5 billion people in this world today. And if each of us just took the time to sit down with the Holy Quran and pick out at least one verse to read with full understanding, with full contemplation and thinking, if we pondered on it, then there would be a lot of understanding in this world today. There'd be a lot of knowledge, especially due to the means of communication. We have phones, we have laptops, we have email, we have internet, many things to communicate by. So we can use these things we always use these things to pass on information. So why not pass out this kind of information about the Holy Quran? There would be a lot of knowledge about the Holy Quran, wouldn't there? And this would please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The final line states, "By your mercy, O the most merciful of all those who show mercy." Yeah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is very, very, very merciful. But a mother is also someone who shows mercy. A mother gives birth to her child and loves her child more than anyone else in this world, except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah has created not only the mother, but also her love for the child. So He also has like double, triple, so much more love for His creations than a mother has for her child. Now, but the situations are similar. Like if we see a child has done something wrong and runs away from his mother in fear of her punishment, the mother runs after the child and says, if I catch you, you'll see what I'll do to you. Yeah, threatening her child, giving him or her a punishment. Now the child, if he keeps running and the mother finally catches hold of him, then the mother will give him or her a punishment. But if the child just turns, goes back to the mother and apologizes, that would make a huge difference. The mother would not give him any punishment. The mother would say, it's okay. The mother would just say, it's okay, just don't do it again, etc. Just embrace him and forgiveness. There's a lot of forgiveness there. Now the same thing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will do. So why don't we just turn back to Him? Why don't we stop running away from Him? That's useless. We can never run away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So stop running away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and ask for forgiveness in this month of forgiveness. The doors of mercy are open. Take advantage of them. And now that we understand this dua, I'll recite it in Arabic. Now remember the four main lines that we talked about. We talked about attaining Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's pleasure, which is by being satisfied with Him in the first place. We talked about avoiding His displeasure, one of the methods of attaining His pleasure. We spoke about sinning also in avoiding His displeasure. And in the third line, we spoke about reciting His verses. We spoke about the kinds of signs there are and the method of recitation. And the fourth line, we talked about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's infinite mercy. And now I'll recite the Arabic and you, the viewers, will follow along. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Allahumma qarribni fihi ila mardatik وجنبني فيه من سخطك ونقماتك ووفقني فيه لقراءتك آياتك برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. Thank you for watching this special episodes where we discussed the daily dua. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us all tawfiq and strength to instill these values in ourselves. And I'll see you tomorrow, same time, with the next dua. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.